Hello, everyone, and welcome to round 2 of the 2020 PCS Open. We've got the front 10, and Terry Miller, the disc golf guy, is joined by our 2019 PCS Open champion, Eagle McMahon. Eagle, we're back at it for another set of action. We saw quite a card during that first round. The scores were, well, they varied, and they were all over the place, but I think we're ready for round 2, and again, starting off on beautiful hole 1. What are we trying to do here?
Yeah, we're back looking out over the fjord. Got a par 3, 124 meters, 406 feet. It's a downhill hole that breaks from left to right. Ideally, it's a forehand play, but I know some of the guys on the card here are known for the backhand, such as Knut Håland, arguably probably the best player in Norway. He's going with the forehand, and I know I've played with Knut before. Forehand's not his strong suit, but it looks like, he's been putting some work in, and he's going to find himself inside the circle.
Well, you just mentioned 124 meters, but it's slightly downhill. How much does it play downhill, and how much distance do you feel like that takes off?
It takes a significant amount. You saw Ståle throw right there. Basically, Ståle got the nose up. Oh, and shout out to Ståle. I played with him last year. He is Norway's nice guy. He is kind of, the fan favorite out there. But to comment back on this hole, basically you just want to get the nose down to get the disc moving. Peter here is throwing a backhand. He's known for that. He's an Innova player, so I would be guessing he's throwing a rock, inbounds, long look. And then we got the fourth guy on the card, Andreas, and I don't even really want to mess up his name, so I just go Andreas H. And he pulled it outside, out of bounds on the road, and going for the flick up shot, almost dunks it. He'll be topping in a easy bogey.
Yeah, that was a great approach shot, and now here we see Ståle. This is a dangerous putt. You can't get too aggressive. Obviously, that hill right behind it, and it eventually sits down, but the hill's right behind this basket.
Yeah, there's no harm in getting a par on this hole. Obviously, you want a birdie, but, it seems like there's no rain in the forecast today, but the wind is up, probably a little cold out, so there's other elements that they'll be battling.
Yeah, and we saw Peter's putt get pushed down a moment ago, and as you're looking at the trees in the background, you can see that it's blowing significantly, maybe just a little over his shoulder from left to right. And Peter's still going to have an easy par at it.
Yeah, I thought Knut was a little bit closer from the camera angle I got, but he was just outside the circle. So we'll be getting 3 pars and a bogey.
Everyone taps in, and you kind of walk backwards over to the tee of 2, and hole 1 almost comes into play when you're playing hole 2 here. What's the plan?
Yeah, hole 2 is pretty much the only kind of a crossover hole on the course. We got a shorter par 3 here. Basically, there's out of bounds down the right side, and it's all about just throwing a straight shot and finishing safe. It's very easy with the wind to pull it over to the right, and it starts to be kind of a steep decline. So most of the players are going to be throwing a fairway driver, semi-stable fairway driver, just straight with a little bit of finish. Knut gets it on the left side. He's fighting the wind, and he's outside the circle there, maybe just around circle's edge, but he'll have a putt.
Almost to pin high. And we were just saying, with hole 1 and the wind being at your back, that means when you're playing hole 2, it's almost going to be a direct headwind that they're throwing into as they parallel one another.
Ståle goes for kind of a shot that gets caught up in the wind, hyzers out, and hits one of the trees on the left side. He'll be a good 10, 20 meters away from the basket. Peter's doing what you got kind of fear on this hole. He got it two turned over. He catches a tree, and he'll find himself out of bounds on that shot. Andreas going for an ace on the big basket.
Yeah, when in doubt, aim for that basket. I suppose that's probably the easiest one to get a long putter or a long ace on.
I could be wrong. Peter, I think, stayed in bounds.
Yeah, it looks like he was just near the OB line on that right side and draws metal from way back. So he's looking at an easy tap in.
Whoa! Andreas H. That is a huge hit for him, balancing out his scorecard from the previous hole, bringing it back to even. That's an awesome putt by Andy H.
He looked even a little bit, and not to be big putted by any means. Ståle, nice putt. Can Knut keep it rolling?
Yeah,
all right.
That's a putting clinic right there, taking full advantage. And I thought Peter, threw out of bounds, and he kind of got away with a stroke there. So a good hole from our card right there. All right.
And even Peter drawing metal as we go to the downhill. What's the plan?
Downhill, par 3, 96 meters, 314 feet. Ideally, you want a forehand shot or a left to right finishing shot that you can throw out left and have it spike in towards the basket. But there are a few other options. A straight putter shot, big hyzer backhand is potentially in the works. But if you got it, forehand is the play, as Knut's showing. Seems like he ended up a little bit short. I don't think he got quite enough distance. Ståle is known for his overhand, and it looks like he puts a good move. And, if you got that shot, throw it, because it's going to spike down pretty close to the basket.
What I think I was most impressed with just seeing Knut a moment ago, it looked like he barely even threw that. It was almost just a standstill, little pitch downhill with the forehand, and very different approach here by Andreas going with the backhand.
Yeah, with these downhill holes, it doesn't necessarily take a lot of power. It's just putting the disc on the right angle to get to the basket. And that's what Knut was going for, and as well as Andreas. Peter ends up throwing a straighter shot. I'm not really sure how far he is from the basket. We'll know here in a second. But it seems like he's going to be pitching downhill, maybe giving it a little bit of a run.
Yeah, this can be dangerous, because if you come in at the wrong angle, it's easy for it to get up and possibly roll away. And even though that was flat, it still carried past the basket. You see the wind is just ripping during this round.
Yeah, Peter putting a kind of an eager run on the basket. Knut giving it a conservative bid. Andreas seems to have a good opportunity from around circle's edge, and he connects. I think I'm seeing a trend with Andreas. I think we got a putter on our card.
We certainly do, and he's got a grin from ear to ear, and Peter's got a little work left to do.
Yeah, it seems like he has a tailwind, and with Peter's putting style, he's going to have to throw it up pretty high with this uphill. The tailwind, it will drop. Oh, and he gauges it right.
Great putt. Now, I can't tell, but a little interesting tidbit. Peter posted last year that he was looking for a couple of very specific Innova KC Pro putters, and I dug into the bowels of my disc golf collection and found two of them that I sent his way, and I couldn't tell by that image, but he's got two KC Pro putters that I've sent him. I hope he's using them.
Very cool. Very cool. Way to help out our man. All right, we're on to hole 4. It's starting to get a little more technical. We're coming into the more woodsy stretch of the course. This tee pad got moved back from last year, if you remember, from round 1. These guys just looking to throw their straight mid-range or fairway driver down the gap. Out of bounds is on the right side, so they will be cognizant of that. Ståle puts a decent move. He'll be within 60 feet.
That's a pretty good angle on it. Not quite enough power, but just how he was kind of finessing that flip up hyzer looked like it was a really good line that he put on it.
I believe he got a good kick too. Knut throws a little bit of an early release. He's going to be on the left side. Really not too difficult of an up and down from there, but he will be out of position for a birdie. I like this.
Turning.
Gets a good kick, and I think he's going to be pretty short off that drive.
Yeah, pushing that right side OB, but he is going to be short and safe. Now, Knut from this left side, might have to deal with a little bit of awkward footing, and then not sure just how big of a line he has, but looks like he's able to navigate it.
Yeah, it seems like there was a bit of a man-made obstacle in front of him. Some tied together trees for, maybe tightening up the gap. Peter, I think, hits off the trees. I don't know. It seemed like it kind of looked like he hit the basket there, but I think it was just a little bit right.
Yeah, I believe it hit the tree and almost bounced back to the basket. It was a good. You got to call those bank shots, as Ståle is a little bit left on his putt.
Andreas giving it a good run. He was probably about 12, 13 meters away. And Knut missing his par opportunity. And missing his bogey opportunity. That's a bad mishap early in the round for Knut. Ståle will have the opportunity to tie for the lead.
Yeah, somewhat surprising to see Knut with the back-to-back mistakes. Of course, what's a powerful stroke, or a very stern stroke is, I guess, what I'm saying. And then he comes back and just gets that one in, but he's going to walk away with the bogey, or the double bogey.
And that puts Ståle up in front. Wow. Okay, moving on. We have hole 5, par 3, 90 meters, 295 feet. Semi-wooded, short hole with, elevation that you have to navigate. It's all about getting enough height and forward progress to get over top of that little pond. But it's very easy to, just hit the top of it and roll back in, because I know that happened to me last year when I played it. But it looks like Ståle has thrown, the shot that you want. He finishes a little bit left of the basket, a little bit deep, but off the tee, I think Ståle's happy with that. Andreas, kind of an early release. Find himself safe though.
How much are you thinking about, the nose angle and not getting it up too much in the air, because you are throwing uphill here, and you want to make sure that you don't find yourself in that OB pond?
What I recall of this hole is I'm throwing a semi-overstable disc, just high enough on a committed angle to make sure I clear that elevation gain. But ideally, I'm finishing a little bit left of the basket, just so I know I'm avoiding the out of bounds.
Yeah, and this is not exactly an easy approach, because you want to make sure that you're giving it enough to clear the OB, but you don't want to go deep and fall off this, platform where the green is.
Exactly. Ståle from about circle's edge. He gets caught up by a branch. Peter has a great opportunity to get a birdie here. from probably about 7 or 8 meters. I apologize, all my European fans and fans from North America, because I keep bouncing back and forth between meters and feet. But I don't really know where I am right now. I'm in Europe in my mind, but at the same time I'm doing commentary from Huntsville, Alabama, and they don't really know what a meter even is. So my apologies.
Well, I think everyone should find it endearing. You're doing your best. I don't even attempt to go with the conversion, but we go up to hole 6, easily one of the most beautiful holes in all of disc golf.
Absolutely. And 94 meters, 308 feet. This is another downhill hole that you're really just focused about putting the disc on the right angle. And what opportunity do you have to throw through two swords stuck in the ground? So just a really unique hole, and that's why this place is so awesome.
Yeah, and this is a change from last year in that they made the opening more permanent and a little bit bigger, but they also then made the drop zone much more difficult. And Peter misses the Mando on that right side. You have to go through the gate. As you said, the swords that are there, you have to go through those.
You could tell with Peter's shot, he wasn't afraid, though. He really put a good move on the disc. He's going for that birdie.
And fully committed to the shot for sure, as we see Knut is.
And it's difficult on a hole like this because you have to throw down and flat. And a lot of these players are used to throwing on a slight hyzer. And if with the way the hole shapes up, you're not going to get that flip to flat because the disc just doesn't have enough time. And Ståle had a great shot, but he just had too much steam behind it. But I'm assuming that he'll take it from where it went out of bounds. Andreas, not the best shot, but it comes up short, and he did not miss the Mando yet.
Yeah, so he'll be able to likely pitch up from there. Now, in 2019 version, if you miss the Mando...
Oh my goodness. That's incredible.
I was just trying to say that if you missed the Mando in 2019, you had a really good chance to save the par, and he backs it way up. And look at this putt, Eagle.
This was in the air for a long time, and it took a second to decide if it was in the basket or not. That is huge for Peter. That has to be. I'm not even going to try to say how many meters that was.
Incredible. And now with lesser position, we'll say, we see Knut just laying that one up next to the basket. Andreas is probably going to do the exact same.
Then needs to sit down.
And as you mentioned, we see Ståle go to where he was last inbound, so going deep of the pin, just a little bit past the white stakes. And now he's putting back up at the basket, slightly uphill to save the par.
And it seems like he was a bit farther than we thought he was. As you see, he followed through on his putt, meaning that he's outside the 10-meter circle.
I think as they were walking down the fairway after their drives, no one would have expected the resulting scores that we just saw. That was a little bit crazy. So we move over to hole number 7, the first par 4 on the course.
Yeah, we got 205 meters, 672 feet. For a right-handed, backhanded player, you're throwing a big distance shot on a hyzer, hoping to land as far up the fairway as you can. For most players, it's going to be either a sidearm or a backhand turnover into the green. But depending where you position yourself on the fairway, there is an opportunity for an over-the-top shot to potentially, cut the corner to get to the basket. Peter throwing a destroyer, if I had to guess. And that is looking a little turd that needs to fade back quick and he will be safe. The problem with this hole, if you pinch yourself up against the right side fairway, one, you're flirting with out of bounds, but two, it really makes accessing the green very difficult. So my pro tip is to play the left side of the fairway because it will be easier to access the green, both from a fairway perspective, but also from an over the top perspective.
Yeah, not that anybody wants to go out of bounds, of course, but even to follow your pro tip, if you'd rather go OB right or left on this hole, you'd rather be left all day long. Just because of all the reasons you said, you're at least going to have a look at attacking the green or attacking the basket if you're up and on the left, as opposed to being up and on the right.
Ståle putting hyzer on it. A little nick from the tree. He won't be in a bad position.
Yeah, but at best, he's probably looking at a par from there, as we see from Andreas. You know, if you don't get a pretty good move on it, as you just said, you're not really going to find a good way to get to the pin or get onto the green. And that's what I think Ståle is looking at, is just how can I put it up there and be safe and make sure I still walk away with a par 4.
Ståle playing for position. Same thing from Knut. And there's really no harm in that. This is a difficult par 4 because of just how the hole shapes up. Peter actually, he has an opportunity to go out over the out of bounds, which is high risk, but it seems like his gap is pretty fair. We'll see how this turns out.
So he's just thrown that entirely over the OB. So immediately after the release, it's OB, and then he has to still find inbounds on the other side, and he did so successfully. So we'll see how close he is. And now this is, oh no,
That
to find one of the OB ponds out near the green.
That was a great attempt by Andreas, but he just hit with too much of an angle, and he got that cut roll into the little pond by the basket. And Ståle going for the gap, coming close, but catches one of the late trees, holding him back from being inside the circle.
Knut with a long look at a birdie from there. Now Ståle still has some work to do.
Good bid from Ståle from around circle's edge. Andreas for a bogey. And
wow,
Peter
trying to pick up a stroke or more on the rest of the card here.
Yeah, this is a great spot for him. Yeah.
So albeit not the recommended route to pinch yourself up against that right side wall, if you find just the right gap, you can sometimes take advantage of it, and Peter does just that.
Yeah, I would have not have thought with Peter's drive he'd be walking out with a green square on his scorecard.
And I know I've been a little lacking in some of the stats, but that does come in as the 13th most difficult hole on the course, and we saw 10% of the field taking birdies. So we move over to a slightly redesigned hole number 8. They had to eagle-proof this hole for you.
Yeah, we're on to the second par 4 of the course, 171 meters. And what this flyover is telling me is you basically want to throw the gap that's shown to you off the tee pad, and then that will set you up for a potentially a mid-range or fairway driver approach to the green. So I imagine that Peter's just trying to throw a fairway driver of sorts as straight as he possibly can to get that landing zone, and then from there kind of doing the same thing over again.
Yeah, they moved back this tee when it was all said and done. They moved it back so that there wasn't a hyzer off of the tee. We saw you and a few others take that last year, and now they're forcing you to go up the middle and play straight up this fairway and really make it that you need 2 good shots here if you want to walk away with a birdie.
I think this is a good change. I appreciate it when course designers go out of their way to, make a more fair hole for the field, but also more challenging as a whole. And I think they did a great job with hole 8.
That's a pretty big statement. So you're okay with them taking away the power hyzer shot that really benefited someone of only your caliber. That's very gracious of you.
It depends. I'm okay with it. There's a time and place for power hyzers.
And you still see the wind. Now, if my geography is right, this hole kind of aligns the same way in, we'll say, like hole 3 does or hole 1 does. You're kind of playing back in that same direction. I don't know if that's technically east, but you're playing in that direction right now. So when you see the wind blow and think about what we saw on hole 1 or on hole 3, it's kind of similar.
Knut, with a pretty good approach to the basket, he'll have himself a putt. And then Ståle with a tough patent pending, throwing an overstable disc. I didn't see that finish, but I want to say it looked pretty decent.
It looked like it might have hit a late tree and then kicked up and to the right a little bit from what I could tell. A very, very difficult position that he was in, and trying to go up and over everything by Peter here.
Yeah, Peter
almost pin high
as he can, and he should have a putt from what I understand. Okay, so Ståle did hit a tree and has a lengthy approach shot. Andreas, not much other than an easy pitch up to the basket. Ståle needs this. And Ståle had the lead, but unfortunately, he's had kind of a rough past 3 holes, and Knut's going to have an opportunity to gain another stroke on Ståle.
Peter walks away after another birdie that he had just picked up on both now 7 and 8. So really trying to tighten things up here.
Yeah, Peter's making moves. Knut's getting his lead back. So we'll see how the rest of this round shakes up.
And of course, this event is 3 rounds over 3 days, which is a slight format change from the previous few years, but trying to accommodate as many as possible, and 3 separate rounds over 3 days is the plan. So here's hole 9, one of the most difficult par 3s on the course.
Yes, it is essentially a big island green. Off the tee, you are throwing out of bounds for a good 180 to 200 feet. But then it is a pretty generous size green. So all you really have to do is make sure you're throwing an overstable disc and hyzering to the safe zone. They're all checking the wind at the same time.
Synchronized wind reading. That sounds like something Norway would do. They all come marching back to the tee that looks like it was tucked back just a little bit here, or no? This tee this year?
I would say it was tucked back probably 20 feet or so.
Yeah, just a little bit longer and required a little bit more angle is the note I was given.
And Peter gets the out of bounds graphic. He just gets a very unfortunate kick. But he was a little bit sawed off. Knut at least gets onto the island. And Andreas, he's hyzering. He's got to ask the trees for some help. No bad kicks for him.
Ståle, who's, as you mentioned, he's struggled these last 3 holes, and that's not going to help.
The struggle continues for Ståle. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't even aware if that was in the question. So Ståle,
Well, with this new tee, I think that got pushed back. I think it just, like you said, makes it a little bit longer, and then it kind of shrinks that window when you're trying to get off of the tee, and that I think that's a result of it. Now, how interesting that he really only threw about 20 or 30 feet, but now he's gonna, after the penalty, he moves up a few hundred feet. That doesn't happen too often.
no, I mean, that's just how it plays out. If you go out of bounds, you're out of bounds. So Knut is just pitching up his second shot. Same for Andreas. They both find themselves close. And Ståle, he has a little bit of work to do for his bogey putt. Hopefully he can connect. Just not take too big of a number.
Left to right wind, and he's able to find the bottom of the basket and just walk away with the bogey, which, all things considered, that's really the best you could hope for at that point after that tee shot. But you see that red train rolling through on his last 4 holes. He's gonna have to pick things back up. He's lost all of the ground and then some to Knut.
Peter seems to, I guess, have a headwind, if I recall. And Knut barely maintaining his balance.
Trying to take himself out. I don't mean to laugh, but I think about, if a player in the lead then knocking themselves out on the basket, that would be a first for sure. As we move over to our final hole of this front half, hole 10, 228 meters. Time for you to feast.
Yeah, it's a big distance hyzer to start off. As you can tell that there's a little bit of a depression that some of the water's sitting in, but it seems like it's time to throw a bomb for the distance guys. Just get your overstable distance driver and hopefully find yourself in the fairway. And I believe that they'll be fighting a pretty strong headwind here. And Knut has enough height and enough overstability on his distance driver to hit the fairway, and I believe that to be a great shot.
Yeah, and as you're saying, you believe, this is a little bit difficult for us. We've never seen, or you didn't play these holes. These are brand new. 10 and 11 are brand new for the 2020 version. You see the wind and the trees as that one just barely leaks out of bounds.
Yeah, just a little bit too much left movement on that, finding himself out of bounds. Peter will, it looks like he's getting some turn. He catches a tree. He'll be far back on the fairway, but he will be inbounds, potentially with some airspace to do something with.
See if Ståle can finish out the front half, as we're nearing almost the exact halfway point of the tournament, being 1.5 rounds in.
Ståle with a tombstone, inbounds, and he's on the right side, so potentially he gave himself an opportunity to open up the fairway on his second shot. Okay, so Peter does have some room to work, and I believe that will give him an outside look.
Yeah, and I think one thing, just as a mental timestamp for everyone out there, is take a look at this fairway, take a look at this hole being brand new. When we're back here in 2021, 2022, watch how much grass and how much this continues to shape and mold, the amount of work that they do out there to continue to build this fantastic course, literally in their backyard. I'm, like I said, put a little mental timestamp on how this hole looks now versus what we're going to see in the next couple of years. I think it's going to continue just to look beautiful and lush and green and grow in very nice.
Absolutely. Ståle goes for a big hyzer, and he gets the out of bounds graphic. Wow. Ståle just can't stop the bleeding.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. Obviously, it's a very long hole as we see Knut put himself in putting range. Just so tough to be battling the wind, and then even tough from a media perspective to be able to catch all of these discs as they're bouncing up and down and then being ripped around by the wind.
And Peter, he was a little bit farther back than I thought he was, but no harm with the par that's coming up for him. And Knut has the only birdie opportunity on hole 10. And it seems like the wind is just swirly. You can't really get a good gauge on what your disc is going to do. Knut just seemed to have sailed it over the basket.
Well, as they're starting to putt out, I want to say thank you to the entire PCS Open staff and crew, all of the hard work designing and implementing new holes. Everybody that's been part of this event, thanks to the crew for putting the footage together so we have something to talk about. And leave a comment so you can win a disc. Leave it in there, and Eagle, we'll see you during the next round.
Thanks, Terry.
All right, we'll see you guys on the back half and taking a quick look at Knut maintaining that lead. Peter is trying to push forward, and Ståle is struggling, and Andreas still rounds out that top lead card. Again, we'll see you guys for the back half of round 2 in just a moment.